Before we start, make sure we don't lose you in the dark. Subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment to show you are here. I was never the type to believe in ghost stories or haunted houses. I grew up in a practical family where things made sense if you looked hard enough. When something creaked in the night, it was just the house settling. When a door slammed shut, it was the wind or a draft. But something about that town, Marin Hollow, felt off the second I arrived. I'd inherited the house from an aunt I never really knew. My mom spoke of her in fragments, as if she was a distant memory they all wanted to forget. I didn't ask questions at the time. I was too distracted with my life falling apart. I'd just lost my job, ended a 5-year relationship, and was drowning in bills. So when the letter came saying the property was mine, it felt like a lifeline. The house was old, tucked away on the edge of town, surrounded by trees that looked like they had grown specifically to keep people out. The lawn was overgrown, the shutters sagged, and the paint peeled like old skin, but the bones of it were solid. 2 stories, full basement, attic, and windows in every room that stared like open eyes. The neighbors didn't say much. A few gave polite nods when I moved in, but most just looked away. That first night, I wandered through the house with a flashlight, trying to imagine what it must have been like when someone still cared for it. Most of the furniture had been covered in sheets, yellowed and stiff with age. In one of the upstairs bedrooms, I found the mirror. It leaned against the far wall, tall and freestanding, with a deep crack that split its surface like a vein. It wasn't dusty. That was the first thing I noticed. The glass was clear and cold, like it had just been cleaned. And when I looked into it, something shifted. Not in the room, in my reflection. For just a second I saw my own face, but it didn't blink when I did. It smiled before I could move my mouth. Then it was gone. I stepped back, heart pounding, and turned on every light in the house. I told myself it was exhaustion, a trick of light and stress. I hadn't slept properly in days, but I didn't go near that mirror again. Not for a while. The next few days passed slowly. I cleaned, sorted boxes, ignored the town's odd silence. People didn't talk much. I started to get the feeling they were avoiding me. At the grocery store, an older man bagging my items looked up and said quietly, "You shouldn't stay in that house too long." I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head and walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. Something about the house hummed, low and constant, like a refrigerator running through the walls. I got up around midnight and walked upstairs, drawn toward that room again like gravity had shifted. The door was open now. I know I left it closed. The mirror stood exactly where I'd left it. I stepped inside and looked. At first, nothing happened. My reflection stared back, pale and tired. Then, in the corner of the glass, a shape began to form. A girl, thin, dark-haired, standing just behind me. I turned around. No one was there. I looked back. She was gone. But in that brief second, I saw her eyes. They were mine. The next morning, I told myself I had imagined the girl. It was easier than believing I had seen something real. I busied myself with repairs, fixed a leaking pipe, replaced cracked tiles in the bathroom, tried to treat the house like a project instead of a mistake. But the mirror stayed on my mind. I found myself glancing toward the staircase more often, listening for footsteps that never came. On the third day, I walked into town. There was a small coffee shop near the center, one of those places that looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s. The barista, a woman in her late 50s, watched me carefully as I ordered. When I mentioned the house on Winrow Street, she paused mid-pour and said, "You got family up there?" I nodded and told her about my aunt. Her expression changed slightly, like she was remembering something unpleasant. "That house has been empty for years," she said, "since before the fire." I asked her what fire she was talking about. She shook her head and muttered, "Never mind. You should ask Don." I didn't know who Don was, but when I turned to leave, an older man at the corner table called out, "The girl in the mirror. That's what you came to ask about, isn't it?" I froze. He didn't look up from his coffee. "She showed herself, didn't she? That's how it always starts." I asked him what he meant, but he just took a sip and smiled sadly. "Best thing you can do is cover that mirror. Or smash it if you've got the guts. But you won't. She doesn't let you." I left without finishing my drink. That night I tried to ignore the mirror again. I locked the bedroom door. I stayed downstairs. But around 2 a.m., I woke up on the floor of the upstairs hallway directly outside the mirror room. I had no memory of getting there. The door was open. The light was on. And inside the mirror waited. I stared into it from the hallway, refusing to step inside. My reflection stared back. Then the girl appeared again, this time closer, right over my shoulder. She looked like me, but not like a sister, more like a version of myself I'd buried. Her clothes were old, soaked through, hanging heavy as if pulled down by water. Her mouth moved but made no sound. I backed away and slammed the door shut. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I drove back to the coffee shop. Don was there again. I sat across from him without asking. He didn't look surprised. "So she spoke to you," he said. I told him no, she didn't say anything. He shook his head. "Not yet, but she will. And when she does, you'll remember what you forgot." I asked him again what the hell he was talking about. He leaned in and said quietly, "That mirror used to belong to your aunt. It's why she never left the house. People say she went crazy, but she didn't. She just listened too long. That girl's been in there since the fire, and she wants out." I wanted to leave. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and told myself it was just for the weekend. Maybe I'd check into a motel, clear my head, think things through somewhere with cell service and people. But when I got to the front door, the lock wouldn't turn. I tried the back, the side, even the basement bulkhead. Every door jammed. Every window refused to budge. The house had settled overnight, that's what I told myself. But the truth felt heavier than wood and metal. It felt like a decision had already been made for me. I didn't know what the girl wanted, but I was starting to feel like I was the one being watched. Not by a ghost, but by something that remembered me. I avoided the mirror for a day, then 2. I covered it with a sheet and even nailed the bedroom door shut. But every night I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate, dragging one foot like something hurt or tired. They stopped at the nailed door and stayed there for hours. I stopped sleeping. The lights flickered more often. My reflection in bathroom mirrors lingered a little too long before matching my movement. And then, on the 4th night, I saw her again. Not in the big mirror, but in the hallway glass. Just for a second. She smiled at me, then tilted her head the way I used to when I was a child. My mother always told me I did that when I was lying. I didn't know why that memory hit me so hard, but I sat down and cried for the first time since I'd arrived. The next morning I tore down the sheet and stood in front of the mirror, determined to end whatever was happening. My reflection stared back, tired, angry, scared. Then the girl stepped into the frame beside me, her eyes locked onto mine. This time she spoke. Her lips moved slowly and clearly. "You left me." I whispered that I didn't know who she was. She frowned like I'd hurt her. "I'm still here. You promised you'd come back." My vision blurred. For a moment it was like I wasn't looking into a mirror at all, but through a window into a memory I had buried deep. I saw flashes of the house in flames, someone screaming, glass breaking, my aunt's voice shouting my name. But I was a child, and I was running away. I fell backward, shaking, and the mirror didn't crack but rippled like water. My reflection was gone. Only the girl remained. She pressed her hand against the inside of the glass. I saw blood on her sleeve. Her voice echoed, not in the room, but inside my head. "You left me in the fire." I crawled away, breath shallow, heart racing. I had no memory of any fire. I had never been here as a child. At least that's what I believed. But now doubt was eating at me like rot under the floorboards. What if I had been here? What if I had forgotten on purpose? I didn't leave the house after that. I couldn't, not because the doors were still stuck or because the windows refused to open, but because I was afraid of what I'd see if I stepped outside. Afraid the world had changed without me noticing. Or worse, hadn't changed at all, and I was the one unraveling. I stopped answering calls, stopped checking the time, stopped pretending this wasn't happening. The girl in the mirror came more often now, not just at night. She followed me room to room, her reflection surfacing wherever there was glass. I caught glimpses of her in the microwave door, the black screen of the TV, even the reflection in a spilled puddle of water on the floor. Each time she looked a little more familiar, not like a stranger, like a part of me that had been missing. I started remembering things in fragments, smells, sounds. The creak of this house's staircase under small feet, the scratch of matchsticks on old wallpaper, a locked closet door I was never allowed to open. I found it again on the second floor, hidden behind an old armoire, nailed shut, untouched by time. I tore the nails loose and opened it. Inside, the air was thick with dust and something else, something metallic. The back wall had burn marks, charred lines where wallpaper once clung. A child's shoe sat in the corner, blackened and brittle. My breath caught. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. On the inside, written in faded marker, was my name. Not hers. Mine. That night, the mirror didn't wait for me to look. It turned itself toward my bed, though I'd shoved it into the far corner days ago. I woke to the sound of wood scraping across the floor, and when I opened my eyes, the glass stared down at me from the foot of the bed. She was already there, sitting, watching. Her mouth moved again. "You promised." I whispered that I didn't remember. Her voice, now clear, replied, "But I do." I screamed and threw a lamp at the mirror. It didn't break. The lamp shattered into pieces around it, the bulb sparking briefly before dying. She didn't even flinch. She just tilted her head and said, "Let me show you." I blinked and the room changed. Or maybe I did. The air turned hot. Orange light filled the walls. Smoke crept under the door. I was small again. The house was burning. Someone shouted from downstairs, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen. Then I saw her, standing at the mirror across the room, me, but not me, holding out her hand, reaching for mine. I ran, down the stairs, out the door, never looked back. The door slammed behind me and the vision was gone. I was back in the dark room, my breath shallow and loud. The mirror was still. My reflection returned. But now I saw the truth in my eyes. I had been here before. The girl was real, and I had left her to burn. I didn't leave my room for a full day. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, eyes locked on the mirror, waiting for her to return. She didn't. Not at first. Instead, I sat with my own reflection, haunted by the look in its eyes, a look that mirrored what I felt inside. Guilt, fear, and the cold certainty that I had done something unforgivable. The memory wouldn't leave me. I saw it in flashes, the way the fire crawled up the walls, the heat on my face, the sound of someone behind me screaming for help, my feet moving toward the door while hers stood frozen. I had run. I had saved myself, and I had forgotten her. Or maybe I hadn't. Maybe I'd buried it so deep that the only place it could surface was through glass. That night, the mirror lit up again. I didn't move. I let her come. She stepped into the frame, not just as a reflection this time, but as something more. The air around the mirror grew heavy, thick like fog. Her hand reached out, fingers pressing into the surface until they broke through with a sound like cracking ice. She wasn't smiling anymore. She looked tired, hollow. "You remember now," she said. I nodded. "Then it's time," she whispered. I asked her for what. Her head tilted slightly. To trade places, I stood up slowly, my body numb. The room felt distant, unreal, as if I were already halfway across the threshold. The mirror pulsed once, and then the walls began to ripple like water, as if the glass had become the room, and the room had become a memory. I felt my feet moving toward her without deciding to walk. My fingers lifted, mirroring hers. "You left me," she said again, and I whispered back. I didn't know. She stared at me for a long time, then said, "But you do now." I felt my hand touch the surface. It was cold, then warm, then nothing at all. I was pulled forward, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, like gravity was shifting and pulling my consciousness into the mirror while hers stepped out. I saw my own body from the other side of the glass, standing where she used to stand. She blinked slowly, like testing new muscles. Then she smiled, softly, not cruelly. "I don't want to hurt you," she said. "I just don't want to be forgotten." I asked what she wanted. "To finish the life you stole. To remember what it felt like to be real." I told her I was sorry. Her smile faded. "So was I," she said. Then everything went dark. I woke up on the floor of the bedroom, cold and disoriented. Morning light bled through the cracks in the blinds, painting everything in soft gray. My head ached, my throat was dry, and for a moment I didn't remember where I was. Then I saw the mirror. It stood exactly where it had always been, untouched, no cracks, no movement, just my reflection staring back. Only it wasn't mine. Not fully. The face was mine, yes, but the eyes were wrong. They watched me with a stillness I didn't recognize, like someone wearing a mask for the first time and learning how it fits. I stood slowly, limbs stiff, and walked toward it. My reflection moved in sync, but something about it felt delayed, as if it had to think before copying me. I whispered her name, though I didn't know it. She didn't respond. I raised my hand, and so did she. We stood there, fingers nearly touching through the glass, and I felt the faintest pull again, like the glass wanted to breathe. I stepped back. The moment passed. The rest of the day felt hollow. The air in the house was still, but the silence no longer comforted me. I tried calling someone, anyone, but my phone had reset. Contacts gone. Call history wiped. I turned on the TV, but every channel was static. The radio only played a single low tone. Outside, the street was empty. Not quiet, empty. No cars, no people. The trees didn't even sway. I opened the front door, half expecting it to be sealed again, but it opened easily. The sun felt wrong on my skin. Too bright, too warm. Like a spotlight, not daylight. I took one step out, and the house behind me groaned, loud enough to stop me in place. I turned and saw the mirror in the upstairs window, not facing in, facing out. I stayed. For weeks, maybe months. Time blurred. I kept thinking I'd wake up, that I'd snap out of whatever dream this was. But the town never changed. The people never returned. It was like I'd stepped out of one world and into a version just slightly off. A place shaped by memory, regret, and something hungry enough to take a name and wear it like skin. I see her now sometimes. Not in the mirror, but in my own movements. When I smile and it feels too slow. When I laugh and it sounds like an echo. I don't know if she replaced me or if I became her. Maybe it's the same thing. The mirror is still upstairs. I don't go near it anymore. But I hear it hum at night, whispering quietly, like it's talking to itself. Or waiting for someone else. Sometimes I wonder if someone new will move into this house. If they'll find the mirror. If she'll show them the truth. And if they'll have the strength to walk away. Because I didn't.